The Bodokas are a unique breed due to their antiquity and purity. They are in danger of extinction. A group of them lives on the hillsides of the Gredos mountain range within Spain's central system. The Welsh equine ethologist Lucy Rees has put all her passion into studying and understanding this animal's behaviour. Her work is unique in Europe.
Winter in Peña Negra can be pretty hard with the cold and the snow, a lot of snow. Some of the groups of Pottokas go down to the woods where there's more food and more shelter.
The equine ethologist Lucy Rees crosses one more day the Peña Negra, the territory where the horses of the Pottoka race live. They are the protagonists of the research that she has been carrying out for several years. This is a unique scientific study in Europe. It is so because the protagonists are horses that live in freedom without receiving any kind of care. The horses that Lucy Rees studies are therefore truly wild.
I chose Pottokas for this because they are a very ancient race, and they seem to be the purest of what was an Ice Age population that went across the whole of the Iberian Peninsula, the northern part. They're not crossed with other races, they're completely pure. Also, curiously, their DNA shows that they're not a very domesticated race. In fact, they don't seem to have been domesticated at all. The Basques have always used them simply to put up on the mountains to eat things that other things don't eat. So it's their originality that makes them really special.
Belts belongs to this small group, an unmistakable male because his left ear is missing. He lives with several females of a similar age. Belts is young, but he still has a lot to learn. And he's about to learn a lesson about respecting the mers of others. Gabiri, a veteran stallion with a white mane, is the one who will teach him the lesson.
When two stallions meet, they don't actually have the fights that people imagine. There's a huge amount of noise and drama and melodrama, and then they just quieten down. They dung and they smell each other's dung to see who each other is for future reference, and then they just go away. The only times when you really see conflict is when one of them has a mare in season and the other ones come for her. He smelled her. And then you can have a conflict, a real conflict, but it's very rare. Horses look for peace, not for conflict. I started this project because there isn't anywhere now in Europe where you can see real wild horses without any human interference at all. They don't get fed in the winter. I don't take the colt foals away. I wanted to know, first of all, would they actually behave like other wild horses do? And they do. I like Peña Negra for this project, particularly because it goes high, it goes low, there's snow, there's wood, there's different environment, and also it's big enough. It's very varied, and I was interested in how different groups are going to put themselves in different places and what effect that's going to have.
Peña Negra is the western area of Gredos, one of the mountains that makes up the great mountain range that crosses the center of the Iberian Peninsula. Around its summit, nearly 1,500 meters of altitude, a varied natural environment of enormous biodiversity spreads out. We are in spring, and the bulging bellies of pregnant mares indicate that a key moment is approaching in the life of the Pottoka's herd studied by Lucy Reeds. The arrival of a new generation. Delivery is a delicate moment also because future mothers know they are especially vulnerable, although this is not the only reason why they are separated from the group.
We don't ever see births because they happen at 3 o'clock in the morning and the mare separates herself to be alone so that she can have the first time with her foal and form a good maternal bond with him. His life depends on that, so we don't see it. From the first day of his birth, the foal is moving kilometers up and down, and in soft, in hard, in gravel. In this makes his it's above all a cartilage, but it makes all his body prepared for the life ahead, whereas domestic horses are often so protected that actually when they start to start their sporting life, they start to break to pieces because they're not made of toughened material like Pottokas are. foal has to learn a huge amount in a small space of time. He has to learn to distinguish between plants, to distinguish between all the members of his group, to know how to behave in that group, to know where to go, to know... he's just got masses of stuff to learn, again, compared to a domestic horse.
Day after day, year after year, the work of observation and study of the behaviour of herds of Pottoka horses contributes to the novel conclusions drawn by the equine ethologist Lucy Rees.
Also, their natural behaviour often gives me ideas of how to do more natural forms of training. For instance, the foal, when he wants to stop his mother and feed himself, runs in front of her and he blocks her. He doesn't pull her tail or push her or pull her mane. He blocks her without touching her, and then he goes underneath. So that gave me the idea that these horses that are very difficult to stop, instead of putting things that hurt on them, I just block them, and it works much better.
The security provided to the foal by the herd allows them to be more and more audacious in their explorations and games with other foals, which sometimes leads them to face stressful situations. This foal has just discovered that he has lost sight of his mother. He has gone after a playmate, drifting too far apart, and he does not know how to get back to her, who does not seem to be nearby looking for him either.
During the first week or maybe 10 days, it's the mother who calls the foal back to her. She's preoccupied for his safety. But when she has to up her milk production and she has to eat all the time, it's the father who's mostly responsible for his safety. She just doesn't bother. They don't seem to bother very much if the foals stray off. You see more where there are predators that the father is much more preoccupied by keeping the foals with the group.
The life of the herd is now agitated by the antics of the younger ones. The air is filled with the aroma of love among horses. This singular grimace, known as phlegmon, helps horses capture with the vibronasal organ, auxiliary to smell, the pheromones emitted by their fellows. Stallions like Pinto are now using it constantly to find out if there is a mare in heat. The young male, again, has already perceived the irresistible smell of a female in heat and heads towards her with determination. Aranta is the young mare who is emitting such smell. The zeal of mares lasts around 5 days, but it's only at the end of that period when females are really ready for the ovum to be fertilized. Until then, they will not accept males. and they will let them know resolutely and conclusively. Ekain's obstinate insistence and Aranta's no less tenacious refusal, a rough game that can last hours, is only interrupted by sheer fatigue. A truce they're both use to have something to eat and recover strength before Ekain decides to start the next round.
How they form their groups, how the stallions behave. It's really important that we have a good base in understanding this, so that we realise that domestic horses are half of them are half crazy, really. This is not natural behaviour that they show. Domestic horses are much more altered. Their behaviour is much more altered by the situations in which we put them than we think. So we draw bad conclusions. We've got to know what natural behaviour is to know what unnatural behaviour is. I don't cure their wounds. And up to now, they've cured themselves perfectly. I think that shows what little stress they have. We don't realise how stressed animals cure themselves much more slowly. If one of them hurts himself or is so ill that he's going to die if I don't interfere, I will interfere. But I'll take him away so that from the point of view of the population he's died. But I'm not going to let him die.
But Lucy Rees hasn't always been able to arrive in time to intervene. The broken tooth discovered in this skull, probably because of a kick, has made Lucy think that the subsequent infection it caused led to its death. Right now, Ekain isn't thinking about the risk of a wound, because he's fully occupied trying to get Aranta to accept him. At least he will keep trying with all his passion. An older stallion would show more patience, even more gentleness with the female, but Ekain behaves like this because he's too young and has too much passion. An absolutely distressing situation that all foals living in Peña Negra will have to face is loneliness.
Being alone is really hard for a horse. It really disturbs them, it really distresses them. They only feel safe when they're with others. All the youngsters leave their natal bands when they get to sexual maturity, which is year and a half, 2 years old. And this is really hard for them. They've got to leave everybody they know and try to insert themselves in another band or find friends or whatever.
Tito is one of these foals that feels out of place and eager to find a new group in which to integrate and stop being alone. The proximity of a herd tempts him to go to meet them, but something stops him. Gabiri, the stallion of a nearby group, is determined to get this idea out of his head.
Gabiri is very special to me because he came very young, and I watched him mature and grow in his knowledge of how to be a stallion, and he's the most knowledgeable chap I know. He knows exactly what to do. He doesn't get in a fuss about anything, but he's very alert. He's very aware of any disturbances around. He looks after his mares, he looks after his foals particularly.
Gabiri demonstrates his experience and his tempered nature by dissuading his grandson Tito from going ahead. He makes him understand with the usual choreography between males, in which Gabiri uses the blocking movement that foals also use with their mothers. The message is clear. There is no place for another stallion in this herd. So Tito resigns himself to continue looking elsewhere.
The colts, the young males, normally form little groups together where they go around playing. Well, they often lose each other and split up and reform. In this population, the fillies, the young females, tend to join them more than the established natal bands. I think because the established natal bands are all quite big now and it's difficult for them to insert themselves, so they go off with the boys and they go around now with one boyfriend, now with another boyfriend. They keep changing and then they settle down more and more with one until that becomes their stallion. As the years pass, he begins to be a stallion. He doesn't have to fight for them. That's a mistake entirely that people think.
Ahmet is a year and a half old, so he's one of these teenagers who goes backwards and forwards in search of new friends. Not long ago, he was in a group with belts, the stallion without an ear. Metz has smelt the presence of his old friend and heads towards him, anxious to be accepted by him again. But something has changed. Belts now lives with several mares, consolidating his own herd.
Belts is a wonderful character. Belts, when he was about a year old, his father died, and that was when Pincho came in, and I think Pincho attacked him and bit his ear, and he lost his ear. Well, it doesn't seem to have affected him at all. He's grown up really well, and he's now forming himself as a stallion. He's had girlfriends a couple of years now, but he was a bit... Well, they're not serious enough when they're young. They forget about their girls and they go off doing other things, and then they come back, and he's now settling down better and better.
A gesture from the distance was enough for Belts to convince his old buddy that there's no place for another male there. Metz has no choice but to resign himself and continue walking through the forest in search of another group where he's finally accepted.
One of the things I'm seeing is that is family differences in how they form bonds. Some mares get very attached to a stallion and they won't leave him. Some mares, when their foals are quite big and they don't need a stallion to protect the foals, go off wandering more by themselves. Some mares, one in particular, simply lives in one place and she refuses to go from there. If one stallion comes, she lives with him, and if another stallion comes, she lives with him, and if nobody comes, then she lives with her family. And her family adore her. She's still got quite old youngsters with her. They don't go from her.
Among the stallions of Pottoka horses that live here, Pinto, who is suspected of having left Belts without an ear, has a peculiar character.
Pincho's a bit different from the others because he wasn't actually brought up in a wild herd. So he didn't have a father to teach him how a stallion should behave. I don't know whether it's Pincho's character, his genetic, or it's this lack of social education from his father, but he was much more aggressive when he started to be with mares. And he was much more careless too. He kept losing them all the time and then getting terribly excited. He's got better as time has got on. But I think I see a lack of parental guidance there. The colt foals normally are fascinated by their fathers and they spend a lot of time following them around, imitating them, learning how you should behave when you're a stallion, and he didn't.
Brooms are among the most abundant shrubs in the vegetation that covers Peña Negra. Perfectly adapted to the harsh conditions of this environment, they offer food to horses and also shelter a multitude of species. During spring and summer, a broom can become a small, densely populated universe. Its highest branches are climbed by grasshoppers to feed. Brooms also offer them refuge, although it's not free of dangers. Some of the jumps they take can fatally end in a web woven by a funnel spider in front of its lair. This kind of bush cricket is really well adapted to life in the broom. Stahl's saddle bush crickets are insects that are typically in mountainous habitats, who find in these bushes all they need to live and reproduce themselves. The sac that females have at the end of their abdomen is a spermatophore. The male has produced it and put it there during courtship as a kind of bridal gift. It contains nourishing substances that will feed the female and sperm that she will absorb to fertilize her eggs. A sack full of food is irresistible to other neighbors, but this bush cricket knows how to make it clear that she does not intend to share. It's a gift for her and only her. Once the fertilization is complete, the female bush cricket descends to the ground where she buries her eggs with the aid of her ovipositor, the enormous stilletta that only the females have at the end of their abdomen. The base of the broom is not just a good place for the new generation of bush crickets to be born. It is also a refuge for Iberian scorpions to rest during the day. These nocturnal hunters, endemic to the Iberian Peninsula, retire to shady places during daylight hours. And here they remain quietly, provided that no one bothers them. The bite of a scorpion is not mortal for a horse like Pinto, but if it injects its poison into their nose, inflaming it, it can kill it by suffocation because horses do not breathe through their mouths. Observing the behavior of herds of horses before the intuition of a nearby danger has contributed with enlightening conclusion to Lucy Ree's scientific work.
What we see is within a natural band, there aren't special leaders, nobody gives orders, nobody tells each other what to do, except not to tread on their own toes. It's, I've got my responsibilities, I've got my role, just don't interfere with me and I won't interfere with you. But when there's trouble, we all join together. Domestic horses that compete for their food, some of them get much more aggressive than others. And people take this to mean that one is the boss or is telling them what to do. And then they think that the way to tell a horse what to do is to be aggressive with it. This is a completely unnatural, anthropomorphic model that I want to destroy with the help of my Pottokas. They are, of course, prey animals, and their reaction when they're attacked, or when they think they might be attacked, is all grouped together and they run together like little fishes or something. But nobody is actually telling them to do it. If anybody gets left out, then they get eaten. Nobody asks who's the commander fish in a group of fish, or the commander pigeon in a group of pigeons, and there isn't a commander horse in a group of horses either. It's just join together and do what everybody else is doing.
There's an attack that Pottoka horses can't escape from by galloping. In the middle of summer, real clouds of flies, gadflies and other insects tirelessly besiege herds feeding on their fluids. Evolution has endowed horses with manes and tails, which, although they are effective weapons against these annoying intruders, they are not at all final. Especially when the attackers are able to find corners in the anatomy of the horses where they are safe from the whips of hair. But desperate times call for desperate measures. In order to get rid of the insidious voracity of insects, Pottokas manage to use what their environment offers them when they cannot manage by their own means. Another way to combat such annoying parasites is to collaborate while resting, so that the tail of one horse scares the insects of another's face. In the case of this newly formed couple, standing head to head is useful for other things that are even more important for a young horse. Both are 2 years old. They are consolidating their relationship, and placing themselves like this allows them to soak up the smell of the other, strengthening in this way the ties that are bonding them. This oak forest seems to be their favorite place, where Indatsu and his young companion find everything they need. Somewhere fresh against the rigors of summer and an abundance of food. However, chance can bring setbacks to bother the placid love story. During their wanderings in search of food, a couple of mares approach them. They are well received by the couple as there is food for everyone. The group is alerted given the bustle of neighs and broken bushes. Someone approaches quickly and not with friendly intentions. It is Belts, the male without an ear, and he does not seem willing to tolerate this situation. The 2 mares that have just joined the young couple are part of his group, so Indatsu has little doubt as to what Belt has come for. But he also has something to defend, his stallion status and the mare that he's with. Again, a spectacular struggle between the stallions of Peña Negra is solved without more apparent damage than those suffered by the vegetation. Belts moves away with his companions, leaving the young couple to continue eating quietly in the corner of the forest.
Pottokas in particular eat a much wider range of plants than domestic horses. They eat a lot of bracken, but only at certain times, only in July and August. That, of course, is not eaten by any ruminant because it's poisonous to ruminants. Cows, goats, sheep don't eat it. So it's a very invasive plant. They clean it up nicely. Lots of people think that they know which plants to eat to cure themselves of wounds and things. I don't know whether that's true. I want to find out whether it's true. It's certainly true that we have a lot of medicinal plants, like thyme, espliego, which is a kind of lavender, brambles too when they're old, various other things. I don't really know what the incidence of them whether they choose them more when they've got a wound or not, and I'd like to be able to show that. What is certainly true is they can heal themselves of very serious wounds faster than a vet can.
The arrival of full crocus flowers to the high pastures announces that the summer is coming to its end. Its friendly common name, quitameriendas in Spanish, which means snack snatcher in English, comes from traditional culture because its flowering coincides with a reduction in hours of light, which means that dinner is eaten earlier, therefore leaving no time for farmers' afternoon snack. Its beautiful petals give some colour and life to a land that is obviously exhausted after so many days of unrelenting sun and lack of rain. For horses, it's a tough time due to lack of food, so they do not hesitate to incorporate these flowers into their diet. But this is too little for the hungry Bodokas, who are forced to travel ever greater distances in search of something to eat. However, in the chestnut trees and oaks that shade them, an authentic manar is brewing, which they will soon take advantage of.
Green acorns are thought to be poisonous, but they don't seem to eat them green. They don't fall green here. They get mature before they fall. And I think the tannic acid in ripe ones and also in the chestnuts is how they're worming themselves. I see quite high worm titers in the young ones, but when they're adults, it goes right down. I also find that when the acorns begin to fall and when the chestnuts begin to fall is when I see worms in their dung, which I don't see at other times.
The first rains of autumn have returned some greenery to the grasslands and a little relief to the herds of Bodokas. With the passage of the storm, calm reaches the skies of Peña Negra. But this does not occur on the ground. Again, the stallion comes racing to recover a mare that has approached another herd. Warned by the uproar caused in his group by the newcomer, Pinto makes an appearance, challenging him. Both stallions are set to settle what seems to be a fight that comes from old. The mare Ekain had come for had already been in Pinto's group before. But some time ago she decided to abandon him shortly after some mastiffs killed her newborn foal. It's a real fight between stallions. Two superb males overflowing with energy and even strength who do not become afraid by the harness the challenge is acquiring. The arrival of the rain seems to appease spirits, ending with the coarse confrontation between the two males. Ekain has withdrawn, followed by his companion, and calm is restored in Pinto's group. Life goes on for the herds of the Pottoka horses of Peña Negra, studied by Lucy Reeds. A life of freedom that only follows its own nature and the pace marked by the cycle of the seasons.
I think this project has lasting value because we're gradually getting further and further away from nature, really, in the way we live and the way we force horses to live. And to have a constant reference to how they want to live, how they do live, how they... we can just go on studying them forever. This is just a continuing adventure, really.